Greetings, Patrick here. Eight questions with. Thank you for coming in today. Our show will be starting at 8 o'clock with the band Camp Crush. This will be their second time with us, and looking forward to seeing them. Uh, uh, Jen Deale and Chris Spicer. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they are releasing their first full length album, and we're going to be talking about that a lot because that's very exciting. A record release party it used to be massive. Um, it really did. It meant everything. What you do, we release a record, maybe a 7-inch record, and then you go out there and you release a vinyl or a CD. And as a buyer, as a talent buyer, um, back when I was doing that in California, at the smaller clubs I worked at, there was two shows you always wanted. You always wanted the band's first show, and you always wanted any record release party because you knew they were going to be guaranteed really good shows. They're going to draw a lot of people. So I suspect that we'll be seeing or hearing about Camp Crush selling out their venue. Um, I know that the venue is the Mission Theater. My brother, who lives in Portland, has been there before, and I asked him how big the venue was, and he says you can put about 350 in there. That's a good amount of people. That's a nice amount of people. And if the fire department is looking the other way, 350 you could probably put in about 375, 380 in there. As long as it's mellow. Hey Anthony, how are you? So they have been working on this record since we even talked to them last, and they have done I have to say they have done a great job at promoting. Chris and Jen are really fantastic at that. And that's really one of the reasons why I like them so much. They promote. It's hard to do, and it's hard to get your voice out there in today's world. Because it's not because you can't get on the radio, it's because you don't need the radio anymore. Before there'd be a few select bands making the cut, and that's who you would hear. That's who the stars would be created out of. What it was on the radio. But now that anybody that with a setup can basically, they could get a Spotify channel or any other social media channel, SoundCamp, anywhere else they can play their music at, they can. And so in Spotify, of course, you can put it on Spotify, but of course, everybody and their grandmother's on Spotify. So it makes it makes promotion all that much important when you do interviews like this. And you go ahead and you tour whenever you can. Like I know that Camp Crush, they tour the West Coast, so they have followings in not only Oregon, but I'm sure they have followings in Washington and California as well. I know they have played San Francisco before, which is my own stomping ground. So let's see. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Getting tickets to Thunderbolts. Yeah, yeah. That looks a lot of fun, to be a lot of fun. So the new records come out, and this is on the tr- on the this is on the they released a 7-inch record. They did a split vinyl, and which was really a cool thing to do. That's punk rock right there. Splitting the 7-inch. That's punk rock. A lot of bands did that back in the day, because recording is expensive. It is. It's expensive. Getting recording time, it's expensive. A lot of it is because a lot of people have a lot of demands for it. So engineers can jack up the prices pretty high and make you pay for it. Um, is that ethical? No. I mean, you could charge a fair price, but any recording studio that is worth its salt realizes that when a band comes in to record for the first time, it is for the first time, and they should actually really get a good experience out of it. It shouldn't cost them an arm and a leg to go in there and record a 7-inch record or a 3 song EP. It really shouldn't. And anybody that sits there and jacks a band up for that kind of money, they could do better. Um, but Camp Crush, they connected with another band. They did a split 7 inch. Um, they sold out. They sold out their allotment. That's cool. I was it was a nice amount. I mean, and to me, when you sell out, that's one of those things where you turn right around and go back to go back and order more because everybody wants it. I saw that a lot. A lot of times a band will come out with a split 7 inch and they maybe do 100 copies. Now it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're just starting out, and then today it's not so much that they're just starting out, but it's because vinyl is expensive. You guys been to Target. You guys been to Best Buy. I mean, have you seen the price of records? They're charging $65 for a LP. Back when I was a wee child, back when I was young, a record would cost like $20. 15.99 to 19.99, maybe a little bit more for a double LP or live record. That might be a little bit more, but overall, um, the prices. Um, my buddy Mike Hoover, I used to go with him every Tuesday. Because it's always been new release day. Tuesday's always been new release day, and he'd go to the music store and he would search for albums. He'd get like 4 or 5 at like a $20 a piece. And then he would get a couple of packs of cassette tapes, and then he would go home. He would record the album on that cassette player. Um, so the record would get played. Basically, the record would get played once. He would play the record once, record it for cassette, and then put the album back in this collection. But it used to cost maybe about $100 every time he do that. Now it costs you $120 just to get 2 records, if you can find them. And so, and that's not even counting the cassette tapes. I don't even know what cassette tapes are going for now. I do know that they're, funny as it may sound, but I understand that they are very popular right now. Cassette tapes are very popular. They're more popular than CDs are, which is crazy for me. I always said, well, why is cassette suddenly popular? I mean, unless they found a way to make it not snag, like get eaten up in your cassette player, I wouldn't touch a cassette. Even today, I mean, not unless they sitting there going like, yeah, it won't get munched up. Because I had that happen. Who hasn't? If you had a cassette, you know what I'm talking about. It's like watching a VHS tape. You put on the VHS tape and then it get eaten up. This is like I remember my very first VHS tape I ever bought was Starship Troopers, and I had it for a long time, but it got eaten up, and then I just waited until I got a copy of the DVD. I didn't go out there and buy another VHS copy because it was like, no, I spent a lot of money on that thing. I spent like $30, over $30 on that, and it was very expensive back then at the warehouse. Um, so Jen and Chris, they are working hard. They got their CD release party is on April 11th. Um, I cannot wait for that. Hey, brother Max in the house. I cannot wait for that. I do hope they have someone recording the concert. I would love to see it. Um, of course, we all know Jen's voice is absolutely a voice of an angel, and they're an amazing group. They really are. They're perfect together. It's like watching the Suspinanes or the White Stripes. It's just a duel. There's no full-fledged band. It's just those two, and it really really works because I've seen them play both as a full band and as the incarnation they are now. And I gotta say that I love the incarnation here now. I do. I love it more. Not only does it highlight Jen's voice better, but it also highlights Chris's drumming. Chris Beiser is one of the best drummers I've seen since the music. We talked about that last time. If you get a chance, I'll put that. I'll put the first interview we did. I'll put that in the description box so you can go and check that out. But we talked about his drumming and how completely professional it is. It is. I don't know if I asked him how many hours a day or a week he practices. I know that they have family and work and obligations, so it's hard to know how much time they have to practice. When you're married and have a career and whatnot, it's not nearly as easy to do as with a regular band. Young scrappers getting together, getting a practice spot, and going down there and spending a few hours, jamming and drinking a couple of beers and whatnot. You can afford to do that when you're just full of vim and vinegar. But when you get a little bit more experience, a little bit more wiser, or have a family or whatnot, practicing it becomes a chore of itself. So that's one of the questions I want to ask too, and of course, exciting to be able to headline, exciting to headline, and a lot of faith too, for a local band to promote, to get to play at a large venue such as the Mission Theater. That's a lot of weight on a band's shoulders. I've seen some bands that were able to do it back in the day. I mean, they would fill up my place, or they fill up the Cactus Club, or um, sometimes they pop up and fill up the FX. The FX is probably the largest of the three clubs that we had in San Jose. It was the FX and the Cactus Club and then Marsugi's. Um, uh, we had the Oasis, but it never came ever. I don't know any time it ever came close to selling out for locals only. If it had a good national act and good strong local support, you might get maybe five, 600 people in there. Um, I don't think I ever saw a local band sell out the Edge. Not the full Edge. We've had local bands play there where we cut the room in half. We had 1,000-person room at the Edge, and we cut it in half to 500. And there are some local bands that give it a good run. Same thing with One Step Beyond, which was a 1,200-person, 1,400-person place. But they used to do really well. They used to do really well. But 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 that was a rough day. That was a rough place to play if you're a local band. Was One Step Beyond, not because of the area or the venue or the everything else, but what it was just the sheer size of it. Um, it's very hard to ask a local band to go out there and play in a 1,000 to a 1,200 person room and ask them to carry that. That's just really very, very hard, very hard. Um, I mean, unless they pop, once they pop, then like watching Smash Mouth. It's like Smash Mouth will fill up the Cactus Club, but we couldn't fill up the Oasis. But once they popped and they became popular, then they can fill up the room. That because everybody's reading about them. It's a little tougher. Music is music is it's an interesting game. It's an interesting game. Um, and So it's really fun to talk to. And these two are really fun too. They have great sense of humor. That's really what I enjoy about Jen and Chris. You can just tell they really love what they do, and they're very good at it. Very good at it. I'm telling you that from my own personal perspective about that. That's a band that I would book in a heartbeat. And of course, Jimmy, if he's heard them, he's already shaking his head, going, "I already know that you would." Yes, I would, Jimmy. Yes, I would. Um, they would kick ass. Uh, um, Yeah, I definitely would have. This is a type of band that I would have booked. I was known for booking bands like this back in my day. This is something I liked. I would look out for, and it's like, yeah, I'm all over it. Speaking of a two-person band that I went after and I missed, oh, so there's two bands that I tried to go after before, during my time. One story I told you about, maybe you haven't heard it, but one time I went after the Dixie Chicks, went after them really hard, and I managed to secure a date. Sent in an offer, secured a date, but it was racing against time because they were going to pop. So you were just trying to get them in here before that happened. And unfortunately, I did not. I lost out by a couple of weeks. All right, the doorbell has rang, so we're going to go ahead and enter it and talk to Jen and Chris. Maybe see a guest appearance by Gus. We'll know. Who knows? Who knows? But thank you for coming here. Thank you for listening. If you're watching live or watching the replay, thank you. Thank you. And here we go. And let's go talk to Camp Crush.
Hello.
Greetings. You know, it's funny. I wasn't even thinking about this, and I was looking at your pictures, and I realized that, those kids, those crazy kids, are down in New Orleans right now. I didn't know, like when you were coming. I knew you were going to come back before the 11th, but I didn't know about that beforehand. Going like, well, maybe they're still in New Orleans right now. Maybe they're not due to come back till later on this week.
We're back home. We're in Portland again. We just we were lucky to find a little bit of time to take a break in the middle of getting ready for the album to come out. So
yes, I was talking about the record before you got here. How exciting it is. My brother, he lives in Portland, so I actually pegged him. I said, hey, so how big is the Mission Theater? Have you been there? He goes, oh yeah, I've been there before. It's a really cool place. I said, how many people can it hold? He goes, well, this is before I asked you this, because you said, you had a big announcement. My first thing was, I'm thinking like a talent buyer. My first thing is the big announcement is they sold out the venue, because that's what I want.
Be big. We'd be excited about that. Not that that's not going to happen.
I think it will. I think it will. You'll do a lot of walk-up traffic.
I think so. And tickets are still selling, which is great. But yeah, it's a really cool space. It's part of McMiniman's, which is there's a bunch of different venues and movie theaters and
hotels.
Restaurants.
Yeah, it's like a huge entertainment and hospitality industry up here. But they find old theaters and totally renovate them with incredible art and make them into music venues or movie theaters. And it's kind of a cool thing that we have up here in the Northwest.
Yeah. So it's really cool. The venue itself is really beautiful. It's great sound, and they have a big dance floor, but then there's a balcony, so if folks want to be seated or whatever. So it's all ages, which is amazing. So
that's the key too. All ages shows always were walk-ups. Ages always were walk-ups. Yeah. Because young kids are, you tell them to go buy in advance. Their only thing they're worried about what's happening the day after.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't expect that to happen till there were several shows where I had a band come in there and we look at the ticket sales, and ticket sales would be like 28 or 29, and my boss be looking at me drilling holes in me. I could feel him staring at me. I'm sitting there just working away. He's just staring holes at me, and he goes, "How many tickets have we sold?" Well, 30, Yasik. And it's just, and he's just drilling, he wants me to get up there and say something like, "Why is this happening?" I'm going relax. They'll come. 8 o'clock comes, and all these kids come running on in. Next thing you know, you got 300-400 kids inside there, and going they never buy in advance.
Yeah.
Though the venue would love to have that.
Indeed.
Which is one of the reasons why the unscrupulous ones make you sell tickets.
Right.
Because they need to have those numbers in. You sell tickets. I don't want to sit there and depend on a walk-in. I want you to go out there and do my job for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but my brother said the venue is really cool. He says that the fire marshal looked the other way. You could put about 375, 380 in there.
Here, Gus did decide to make an appearance, so.
Well, yeah. Well, I had a feeling we'd be talking to the manager today.
He's really doing a poor job at his management duties, but he's really cute. So
yeah, you know what? I agree, because I was actually after I found out that Gus had taken over management, I was expecting to get a writer.
Yeah. And he's really,
and nothing was sent over, Gus. Come on.
All he did all day today was sleep. So
yeah. How do you like? Well, I was talking about practice. How to practice. And how do you balance your practice time, especially with a new record coming out?
Mm-hmm.
You always want to get extra. You always want to be extra sharp.
Yeah.
So where do you find a balance between your career, your 9 to 5, or so to speak, and the musician side of you? It's not as easy as it'll appear. Like, I'll just go to sit down and play.
No.
How do you manage your practice time with your daily life?
Well, the daily life stuff it's there to support the music and to support the our family. And so we have really worked hard to make sure that can work around the music in the family. So we both have, gigs that allow us to do music whenever we need to. And both kind of making our own schedules, we're able to, on a lunch break, pop down and get an hour of rehearsal in.
Yeah. So like right now, since we both work from home, every day at lunch from noon to 1, we go and rehearse and go through our whole set. So we're really lucky because we get, like, a lot of bands get a couple rehearsals a week in when they have a big show coming up, and we rehearse every single day for weeks before. So it helps us be like really super tight, and leaves the evening to do family stuff and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, you released you did a split 7-inch,
Mm-hmm.
which is so damn punk rock, by the way. You did a split 7. Oh my gosh, yes, that's so much fun. So you did a split 7-inch, and now before the 7-inch record, how many physical records had you recorded and released? Not digitally, but physically.
Mm-hmm.
How many have you recorded for your family?
This is kind of like our first like full LP that we've printed. Here it is right here. First full one that we've done. But we had done another, was it another 7-inch?
Yeah, we, with the same person, had done another 7-inch. That one was a little bit of a different series. It was just a couple of our songs put on a split 7. Whereas the new one was like a live recording in the studio to tape,
Mm-hmm.
which was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had done just 2 singles on a 7-inch before. And other than that, we had put out 4 EPs just on CD.
Mm-hmm.
And so this here is kind of our first full length Real Deal album that we're putting out.
Yeah, so excited. And then we're actually already scheduled to go into the studio and record another full length.
Starting next month.
So we're, get one.
It takes time. It's not, you hear people, they'll say it, you'll hear a band say that. They'll say, just like a new record, and then they'll sit there and say, we're going to go back into the studio and do it again. And you're going like, but you just got done doing it. It takes time. It's not like, yes, next week I'm going to go in there and drop the whole album all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Hello, Stephen. How are you? Hello, Zazelle. How are you? Glad you're here. We're talking with Jen and Chris from the band Camp Crush, getting ready for their record release party on April 11th. Wow. And what's really cool too is you guys get the headline.
Yeah.
You get the headline, and you got to pick your bill.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure to headline, a venue of that size. As from in your Booker days, So we're really, really picky. Like we'll headline things that, maybe it's like a 200-person club because we know that's always going to be like, doable. But we try to save like these really kind of bigger headlining gigs for when there's something really special, something to celebrate.
Yeah. And we love picking the bill too, because it's an opportunity to play music with our friends, to play music with other bands that inspire us, that we just think are incredible.
Yeah.
Where it's just like sometimes we'll pick a band and we'll, even though it's maybe our show, we'll kind of like, fangirl a bit, like, I can't believe we get to play a show with them. It's so awesome they said yes to play our show. And so it's fun.
Plus when you get especially you get younger bands, like bands that are just coming out, and then there'll be veterans on the scenes tapping their shoulder and saying, "Hey, why don't you come open? Would you be willing to open up for us?" And it's a great way for bands. Derby and who's the opener again?
Greta Seabird.
Gretta Seabird. Yeah. So here's a chance for them to come in, if they haven't been fully established, to get established, and if they have, to build upon it.
Yeah.
Sort of like that split 7-inch did. You went ahead and you made a split 7-inch, which is a very cool promo. I love them. I used to get them through the mail all the time, and you got this, and you sold out your assortment, because we were talking to you that night.
Right.
Yeah.
That night we were on Instagram talking, and I'm sure you're probably going like, "Damn, dude, why don't you just, why don't you just go find a club of your own already?" Because here I'm asking you all this. Did you sell out? Did you, how's the selling?
Yeah. It really.
I was excited.
That show was so great, and we sold the 7 inches out in like, I don't know, they were gone immediately, which was really cool, and that was such a.
We tried to make sure to have or to order a few more of this. Of our album, those ones were cut by hand. They were hand lathed, and so not easy to make a large amount when you're doing it by hand. So, but we've got plenty of vinyl that we're ready to meet the demand.
Yeah.
Are you doing strictly vinyl, or are you going to be doing cassette and CD as well?
We're doing CDs too. We did a much shorter run. I mean, CDs are just, you can always reorder those. But there's so few vinyl pressing places. And there's actually one right outside of Portland, thankfully. But is it the only one on the West Coast?
It's one of there's not very many, in the nation. And I think I remember it's like maybe the largest west of the Mississippi, or maybe one of only a few.
Right, yeah. So we were really lucky to be able to work locally. But you kind of, there's like minimums, in terms of printing, which is great. It's a big investment, but sold a bunch in our Kickstarter already. So it's great.
I saw that. I saw that you were exhausted from putting together all the packages and everything. Everybody got their prizes, and you sent them on out.
Yeah.
I already told the cheetah we're going to be expecting Gus here in a minute to come live with it.
He's going to be in the package. Yeah.
Isn't that my prize? Isn't that my group?
Yeah, look for the box with all the holes in it.
Finally got my Scottish fold.
Yeah.
So you got the records. You're all set up. And right now it just must be. You must be full of anxiety a little bit. So how are you coping with that?
Do you
keep on going over the set list and going like, maybe we should move these songs around? Or are you guys ready to rock and roll?
There's like a healthy level of anxiety, but I think that we're in such like a go mood.
There's a lot to do.
There's a lot to do. So we're not really rethinking very many decisions. We just have to make it and move on. We made the set list, and now we're practicing it that way. If adjustments need to happen, that's great. But it's been a lot of work just in general, getting ready for any DIY artist to handle, all the promotion and distribution. And, I made another music video for our single that's going to be on the album that we just finished a couple days ago. and we're packaging up all the Kickstarter stuff to send off in the mail. We have to update all of our, all of our branding across the internet to get social media and website and all that stuff ready, and our online store. It's just like we have this long spreadsheet with all these columns and like due dates, and
it's like we're very much ready to rock, and then we have like a lot of admin things we're doing at the same time.
Yeah. Who knew rock and roll was all about spreadsheets at the end of the day?
All about spreadsheets.
Oh,
It's funny when I'm sitting there talking, I don't know who I'm talking to, because you guys both do the work. You guys both, generally it's just one person doing the promo, but in this case, you guys both do it. And when I'll ask a question, I'll send a blurb over or whatnot. And then I don't know, I'm not sure who is it Chris or is it Jen, is it both? Because you guys are full-fledged promo machines.
Yeah.
And you guys promote as well as anybody I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
Jen has like a better, what I like to say, like a bedside manner. She's like nicer in her texting and messaging. And so I have learned to like emulate that. So I can pretend to be Jen on the internet if I need to. If I'm sending an email, I can like Jenify it.
Yeah. It's a lot more
so it makes it harder
I thought about it because I'm sending you guys, potential additions to the band. I sent that, I said, hey, I found some other musicians here. I'm not sure where they're from, but take a look at them. And then, and all of a sudden I'm getting this, that might work. What kind of feedback are you getting prior to April 11th? I mean, are you getting any love from the local press? Is radio all over this? College radio all over this? I mean,
college radio is all over it, which is amazing. We have been, it's just cool because we get these reports back, and it's being our Electric Suns, our last single, is being spun all over the country.
And Mind's Eye was the first single that we put out from this album, and it's still getting a lot of radio spins, a lot on the East Coast. And
Electric Suns, which is amazing, has been put into regular rotation in some of these kind of more local radio stations. So we are definitely seeing a lot of love from the radio side. From the press side, I think the show is going to be full of a lot of folks from some of our local newspapers, and then we also have some local label heads that are going to be coming, which is really exciting. I think the energy around just the release and the show is really, really positive. And packaging up all of our Kickstarters has been really cool because we gave this option that if you wanted to pick up your reward at the show, you could, and we kind of, have it there for them. And most people chose that were localish, chose that option. So there's just it's really good vibes. I'm a little less anxiety this time around than I think in some previous years. I think people are ready. I think we're excited. I think our audience, we've seen a lot of growth in that in the last couple of years, which has been really cool. And so I think everybody's excited.
I think I think it's all one of the greatest myths. I always felt like sometimes a style of music will fade out. Sometimes it will. I mean, I have friends who they were doing oh God, I remember this. So our number one rock band in our area was this band called Sin City. And they were really, really good, and they didn't play metal. They sold out. They were like one of those bands that would, they would sell out the venue. I mean, they would you use them to build up other acts. I mean, they were just super nice guys, and they sell out. I mean, there'd be lines around the block, but then all of a sudden the sound changed. Before it was hair bands, and that's what they were doing, and next thing you know, the grunge hit. And all of a sudden the crowds that were coming out to see him, they weren't there anymore. They were going to see other bands that were playing more Nirvana or Alice in Chains or what have you. And they I remember, believe me, to this day I still shake my head at it, but they came to me and they came over and they says, well, we want to change our sound. We want to change our band's name and our sound.
Okay.
And it's the number one band of the venue down the street. And he and I didn't get along too well. But they came to me and they said, "Hey, we'd like to do it," and I said, "Yeah, by all means, let's do it. Let's do it." And they went down there and they changed their sound, and then it just didn't hit.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it just didn't hit. And, I've always felt like one thing that what I love about good bands find a way to make it work. Not to say they weren't a good band, but I think they made the change for the wrong reason.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
They didn't make the sound, like when you see Metallica playing with an orchestra. They did that because that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to experiment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then and that's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Alice in Chains playing an acoustic set. They never done that before. 2.5 years later, after a hiatus, they came over and just crushed it.
Yeah.
I think some bands. Do you feel like some bands they do that? They try to change their sound or change their look, to stay relevant, or is it like, because you guys were a rock band at one time?
Yeah, we kind of did the opposite, I think. Like we actually, prior to Camp Crush, which we've been making music together forever, but so we've had a few bands along the way. But prior to Camp Crush, we actually had a folk trio that we were in with a guitarist. And I think when we started that band, we were like, this is what's really big right now. This is what people would want to hear. This is what we see at festivals around town, And then we did that for a few years, and then we were like, not that we don't like folk music, but we didn't really like playing folk music. It wasn't our passion.
Yeah, and we also realized, I think, what you're saying, where we're like, I think maybe we started doing this for the not quite the right reasons,
Mm-hmm.
because we both started, privately thinking to ourselves and then starting to say to each other, what if we just made music that was really inspiring to us, or made the music that we really always wanted to make? We were both having the same thoughts, and then we started talking about it. Like, oh yeah, absolutely, let's do that. So it was kind of that journey the opposite way, where we realized that we needed to do more of our own thing, and that's what launched Camp Crush.
God, can't you tell that in a band? Can you tell that when a band's doing it for their own reasons? I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you when a band's out there doing it for the money, doing it for the fame, doing it for all the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I really love. I love about you and your voice, and Chris, and I had to say it all over again, man. But I already said it once before. But man, all I've been telling people about how hell of a drummer that Chris is.
I know.
I talk you up all the time. I just think you're one of the best drummers I've seen in the time I've been doing this.
I appreciate that.
He was so good, I had to lock him down.
That's true.
It's really, just so much respect for that, and of course, Jen. I mean, it goes without saying, your voice is, it's magnificent. So and definitely, I was actually listening to you, and I was actually trying to see if I could hear you do a rock and roll, someone like a Pat Benatar.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't. In my mind's eye, I couldn't see that. I could see. I just, when did you know that the sound that you were doing now was the one for you? Was it because just the way it sounded, the way the songs were written, the pressure on the vocal cords? When did you know that, like, this is where I'm at? This is where I'm supposed to be?
Well, I've always been loud. I mean, I think that there's that. I've always just been a big singer, and I think I remember I grew up singing. My mom was a piano teacher. We'd have recitals, and that's where I learned how to play piano. But I'd also get up there and sing a song, for with the people coming to recitals, and so I always sang. But then I just remember being like probably in middle school, and singing for a choir concert, and then I just decided, like, could I belt it? And then I was like, oh, I can belt. And then from there, I kind of went down the path of studying opera for a while, and then didn't like that as much, and I was like, I really just want to sing rock and roll. That's what I want to sing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's like, this has always been my voice, but I definitely, because I'm writing all of the melodies and kind of writing the bones of the song, I'm constantly writing like the most difficult
vocal runs
and like
melodies.
vocal elements to a song, and so then I get to a show and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to just like do the hardest thing I possibly can for the next hour. But yeah, I mean, I my voice is alongside of all of the synths and the piano piece, I consider my voice my main instrument, and so really trying to always continue to grow in technique and pushing myself and trying new things. Like I think Mindside, the first single we put off this record back in October, is a really cool like departure from more of like the kind of the more pop or some of our kind of softer pop music, and it kind of shows like I think the range there, which is fun. So there's more of that on the record too, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, and Jen's voice is incredible. It's like, okay, if we're gonna go out on a date night, Jen will come out. I'll be like, wow, if you look that good, I have to like dress up because I need to like impress just as much as you're impressing. It's the same. That's why I have to be a good drummer, because she's so good at what she does.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know what? You're right. I mean, you have to hold your own. I mean, general public listens to the voice. Musicians listen to the band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what they're listening. I mean, you just sit there and you stand behind a band, like maybe 2 or 3 bands that they played, and I used to do that a lot. I used to just shut my mouth and sit right behind the other bands, and I would hear them talk. Sometimes they would, very, very rarely did they ever like talk trash. Most of the time they were talking technique, talking about, their skills, like they need to tighten it up here, or maybe more bass here, or, or not overpower the singer on the bridge, and that sort of thing, and I would sit there and listen to that, and like, wow, this is really interesting. It's an education.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a 2-piece, I think a 2-piece, man, I mean, we talked about 2 pieces last time.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my favorites were the Spinanes. When I first heard you, I thought about the Spinanes. Of course, she doesn't have nearly the voice you do. The White Stripes, White Stripes, and then of course, probably the only girl that I know, only 2-piece I know that probably would match you out. But when I say it, I mean, of course you can sit there and go like, wow, and that's the Dresden Dolls.
Oh, I love them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Man, I spent the last 3 months in San Jose trying to chase them down.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I told you, like I was saying right before you got here, I'm saying like you're the band that I would book.
Yeah.
And I would, that's just in a heartbeat. Now, the record, how many songs on the record, and you already said you're already starting to go inside the studio, so it means you already must have 5 or 6 new records already written. So what's the difference between what we're going to hear on the 11th versus what we're going to hear possibly coming up in the last half of 2025?
Yeah. So there's 10 songs on Up at Night, the record that's coming out next Friday. And I think that this is a really fun.
I'll hold it up again.
There it is. I think it's a really fun collection of like kind of more dancey, poppy, like that kind of that late 80s vibe. And like me sort of stretching a little bit into like some darker, like Depeche Mode style stuff. And I think you'll see that kind of stretch. I honestly, I think that the record is so diverse in that way that I think it's really, I'm really, really excited about it. But because it took us so long to make this, we've been writing songs. We've been writing songs that aren't on this record. And so we had probably like already 5 that we were ready to record. And then I spent like January and February rounding out the record and wrote 5 more songs. So I think we'll probably have like maybe a total of 12 on the record that hopefully our next or second full length.
And the sound of those songs.
Will you try to include a track that you record live in front of a crowd?
Maybe that would be fun. We definitely will put a fun cover. We always like to record a cover, so it's fun to pay homage
Oh,
to
really?
it. Yeah. So there's a cover. There's a cover on this one, which is I'm pretty excited about. It's one of my all-time favorite songs.
Which one is it?
Oh, it's a secret.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have a request. In fact, Gus, I have to let you know that Gus sent this to me. As a set of questions for you. He said he suggested that I suggest that you do Temple of Love from their next cover.
Okay, well, we'll put it in on the list.
Oh my God! I bet you could crush that.
Yeah, I love that song.
That'd be fun.
Have you ever tried to sing it?
No, I haven't.
We do enough karaoke.
I know. I was gonna say that would be a good karaoke song.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I would be interested in seeing. That would be very cool. You could even have a couple friends come in and background it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm coming up with some ideas here. Fire.
I love it. Pure fire. Yes.
Because I'm thinking, well, hell, if you got a beautiful gothic voice, why not go have fun with some Sisters of Mercy? You can't go wrong with that. I have one band that I had that their one cover. You know what they did for their cover, for their encore cover?
What's that?
I'm not even kidding you. It's the cutest thing ever. They do the Meow Mix song.
The jingle?
The jingle? I love it. That's so good.
I want chicken, I want liver.
Yeah.
That's they do the Meow Mix one. Yeah. So that's what they do. I was like, that's amazing. I mean, that whole crowd must sit around waiting for the last song because it's so fire. What song do you think? What song do you hear? Like, I'm sure you have your own personal songs on the record.
Mm-hmm.
But what kind of feedback have you been getting back from the press, from other like the recording engineers? What kind of feedback have you been getting on the album as a whole? Are you what kind of reception are you getting? Are they just hurry up the 11th, get here?
Yeah, it's like no skip. It's a no skip record. That's my favorite when people say that. Yeah. But I think one thing like certain songs I think are hitting really, really strongly. Like we have one ballad on the record called Distractions. And it's sort of like beach house vibes, and it's a big vocal moment, and it's a really I think just a really cool song. It's this beautiful arpeggiator that's kind of going all throughout the chorus, and it's pretty I think kind of like a magical song. And so people really loving that song. And then Electric Suns, which is the last single that we just put out, has gotten amazing. People are just this is my favorite Can Crush song,
just some people are talking about the energy and the punchiness of the song, which I love. I love when we get to put out a song that just hits people where they're like, oh wow, this is awesome. I didn't realize it was going to be this big punchy dramatic energy moment. And not everything on the record is punchy, but everything has drama and energy in its own way.
Yeah, and I think for Chris Spicer fans, Electric Suns is just such a.
I have to sit there and say, I was thinking of late '80s and early '90s. I have to sit there and say, what the moment that brings me back to that more than anything else is Chris back there dancing. That's like, he's in the music video and he's dancing, he's not playing the drums. He's sitting there dancing, along with the song, and going that's so cool right there. That's that's what it was. That's the 80s. Yeah.
I love those dancing music videos. I love those.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, and it's glad you're still doing music videos. And of course, one of the things I was watching you, because you're in the woods doing this album. And I'm sitting there looking at this and going I'm just wondering, it's out of the blue. I was just wondering, I wonder if anybody has watched them, because I know there seems to be a lot of TV and movie work going on in Portland, including the revival of a very popular series. And I was just wondering, has anybody ever approached you yet and asked you to contribute anything to anybody's movie or anybody's film or TV project yet?
We've been in a couple, we've had songs featured in a couple from earlier EPs that we put out. Our song Last Hour is actually a song that was commissioned by a director. He was writing like a horror film, and he was like, I need something that's like James Bond meets, Stranger Things sort of vibe. And he sent me the script. And so I read the script, and then I wrote a song and he loved it. So it's like the whole title, it's like in the song or in the middle of the movie. It's the whole like title
the credit
and the end credit. So there's that one. And then we did another, a friend of ours has a film that's kind of gone through like the local, like not local, but the small movie festival circuit.
A short film,
short film. And he commissioned a song from us. And so we wrote Breaking Down, which is like a huge departure from the Camp Crush sound, but we wrote it for that, and it's also featured. So yeah, we've definitely done, and we've had some placements in like, kind of smaller shows along the way. So we've definitely been lucky. But the funny thing about recording, the music videos that you're talking about, like dancing in the woods or dancing on top of like in a kind of beautiful park, is just that people watch you do it, and it's really embarrassing. So
I think they're all trying to become extras, because they'll just come and walk through the shot. Like, what are you doing? There's only ever two of us too. They probably think we need the help. I don't know.
Yeah.
maybe I ought to bring out the manager for like an autograph session.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, he is quite famous for sure.
You know what? We keep going like this, and we'll make him famous. We'll make the YouTube famous.
I know. Now our other cat has a cameo in the music video we're putting out next Friday.
That's true.
So,
like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what that means? They say cats equal units.
Yeah, we're gonna move those records.
Exactly. We know how to
now. So let's talk a little bit about because before we go back to the new record, because we're going back to the new record, but we gotta stay here for the current one coming out on April 11th at the Mission Theater in Portland, Oregon. Gosh, well, first of all, let me ask you this, because vinyl records of these days, it's pretty damn rare for it to have, it takes a lot of money to record. Too much money, if you ask me. I think recording studios overcharge. To me, it's like, dude, your job is to make them sound great, not to take their money. That's what engineer is to me.
Yeah.
Always has been. We had, I think I mentioned his name last time, but I'm going to mention it again this time. Shout out to Bart Thurber. He had a studio called House of Faith. And bands would be lined up around the door, wanting to work with Bart. Bart would work. He worked dog hours. And if a band didn't have necessarily all the funds or whatnot, he was like old school. He's like in the 1800s. He would trade. Sometimes people will bring him groceries for 2 weeks in lieu of the recording time. And he'd take, and a home cooked meal for 2 hours for maybe a single.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how, plus he had his regular clients, and they paid him his fee. If it's a well-known band or whatnot, somebody well-known, of course they paid him. But it wasn't all about the money for him. It was all about the sound, and the House of Faith was just an amazing place.
That's cool.
Do you feel like that way too? I mean, when you walked in to record, did you record your 7-inch at the same place you recorded the LP at?
No. So the 7-inch that we did is with this guy in town, Barry Brousseau, who is a major famous punk rocker of Portland.
Old school punk rock guy. Yeah.
And for him, it was like we did it for free with him. And then we was we sold him, and he got half, we got half, and he did all. I mean, so that's amazing. He loves it, and it's a series that he's really passionate about, and he's very choosy about what bands he invites in. And so it was an honor for us. And, he made it very doable, but making this was, huge investment on our part. I mean, we've been we've been playing shows, touring, you know, West Coast, Pacific Northwest, like a lot, trying to pay for pay for all of that. And then of course we did a Kickstarter. And so the Kickstarter really helped us
I was
pre-sell.
gonna ask you about that. Did you have, I mean, because most of the people I talk to that do that, they do it because of movies. I don't really, you know, I know one person did it for a comic book. The
Mhm.
comic book person didn't do all that well with it, but movies always seem to do really well with, especially horror movies. I don't,
Yeah.
I, just tell me recording a horror album is all, it's all, um, but as far as bands go, I don't know how that, you know, even though it originally started with bands,
Right. Right.
you know, all this crowdsourcing started with bands. It started with, I think Jane Sideberry actually got it up and running as far as putting it in the public eye. Like, this is a well-known artist, and they're doing a crowdsource, you know. So,
Yeah.
but what was it like, you know, setting it up, running it? I mean, what kind of, you know, was it? Did you get good feedback out of it? Is it something that worked for you? Would you try to do it again? And what would you tell bands that are, you know, like, you know, Chris, Jen, I'm thinking about doing this. What should I do? How should I do it? What perks should I offer? What advice would you give a band or a soloist, uh, as far as crowdsourcing go, to make it work?
I think one big piece of advice is, because this is the second one that we've done. We did one maybe 6 years ago.
18 maybe. Yeah.
The big piece of advice is like, don't like shoot for the moon.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, don't shoot for the moon, because this is not necessarily like, it's not like free money. You have to be willing to like message everybody, you know, and you have to be willing to put the word out there. And, you know, not everybody's going to back it, but if you ask for too high of a dollar amount, it's just only going to create stress on the project, and stress on people who have to hear from you constantly promoting it every single day for the month you do it. And whereas if you do a smaller amount, you're going to have a much higher guarantee of getting that, and then making a dent in your project. You know, I think that, like, for us, yes, going into the studio is expensive. And when we think about the cost of the album, we try not to think about every single dollar that's gone into the project from, you know, beginning to end, because that's much too big to think about.
Yeah, but that's not reason why. That's not the. I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's not the very first thing that you make a record for, though. We're making it become rich. That's not, you know, if you're going at that, if that's your first idea going inside the studio, you must as well just pack it up right here. You know, don't even bother going through the door if that's your idea, reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, and art in some ways has to be a bit of a passion project. And would you do it even if you lost money on it? And I think that's a question that a lot of like artists need to ask themselves. And hopefully the answer, you know, I wish every artist could get extremely well compensated.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the world that we live in, but I am so glad that everybody still chooses to make the art that they make. And so I think for us, when we did it, we kind of came to this consensus that we just wanted to like make it so that people could get the vinyl in their hands and have like a platform to order it and help cover the cost of printing the vinyl. We didn't take into account necessarily the cost of recording and all that, because that's our cost that we were willing to pay. And we're not necessarily going to put that cost on our fans.
Yeah, and I think when we made the record, so when making the music itself was a very big bulk of cash, but we Camp Crush paid for that. Like we gigged, and from all of that revenue, we put every single dollar of that back into the recording process. And so Camp Crush paid to make the record, which is amazing. It's amazing to be a working musician and to be able to make something that of this quality and with the people that we did. But then on top of that, printing the vinyls, right? There's a minimum, right? You at least have to order 500. And, it's thousands of dollars. And so on top of the actual just like music production side. So my advice, if there's musicians out there that really want to try a Kickstarter, it's like, choose a part of the process and ask the crowd to be a part of that. So whether that's doing like PR or radio promo or like printing vinyls or something like that, like invite them into that. I see a lot of artists ask for like $20,000, you know, and because they're trying to cover the entire cost of everything end to end. And I just think that that's really, really, it's really hard to do in 30 days. Now we asked for $2,500 and we got it in like 6 days, I think. And then people kept buying records, you know, and so we went over our goal. And that just really took the pressure off us to go like, hey, listen, we were able to pay for printing the vinyl. And so we know Camp Crush gigged a lot and paid to produce the music. And then, you know, our audience helped us like get the vinyl made.
That's you know, 500, you know, you're right, it's the minimum. I mean, now what kind of perks did you decide on the perks? I mean, how did you decide what to do? I mean, I know the one I saw on your website, the 20 grand for Gus. I was gonna ask you to send it, if I can send a check. But other than that perk for Gus, what kind of perks did you offer, and what did you, and were you paying attention to seeing what was the most popular one, so you could apply that to maybe the next record?
Yeah, you know, this Kickstarter was mainly about the vinyl, and so our number one, like, biggest tier that people supported was getting the vinyl. Mm-hmm. But we also, you know, we did like typical ones like, you know, we had you could get a digital download, a CD, a merch package that includes a T-shirt and a few other things. We tried to get a little creative because it's fun to like have some other categories where, like, you know, and sometimes people will take you up on them and sometimes they don't. This one, people mostly just wanted the vinyl.
Yeah.
But we had, you know, like I do some like videography work and stuff like that, and photography work. And so I've worked with bands before. Mm-hmm. So we put up like, if your band needs a photo session, you know, then that's a reward tier that you can.
I know for, you know, even though I don't do it, but I tell you, if I was in Portland, I know the one thing I would have went for.
What's that?
If Chris would have given a drumming lesson.
Mm. Oh, a drumming lesson. Yeah.
I would.
There was like songwriting, like a chat, like a video call to talk about songwriting, or you know, just things like that. You know, we tried to find the things that we felt like we could do maybe and not stretch it too far. But
I think the one that we were surprised that went as well as we offered VIP tickets to our April 11th show. And so you get a signed vinyl with that, and you get your ticket to the show. You get to come in early, come back to the green room. We're going to have like champagne and like a photo booth area. And that was really popular. Yeah. So that's going to be really
I guess I'm pretty lucky Gus didn't send me that rider.
Yeah, right.
God, you get champagne and candles. I mean, holy crow. Gee.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But that's like exciting because it's going to be fun. It's gonna make the night even more festive.
It is. It'll make it more of an event.
Yeah.
So here you go. You got the and the vinyls going out, and have you managed to find a way to distribute it yet, or is it going to be DIY for right now?
So like digitally, like streaming and stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like how people buy records. Are they only gonna be able to buy records through the website?
Yeah. We're gonna have them for sale on our our website store. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be in some local record shops here in Portland.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We have like one of the most incredible record stores here in Portland, you know, in the nation, called Music Millennium. I think they were one of the ones that was maybe one of the first that helped kind of get Record Store Day off the ground back in the day. Mm-hmm. Incredible record store. So we're going to have some in record stores. Obviously, we're going to have them at all of our live shows. Mm-hmm. So you can buy it on our website. So distribution on a larger scale, that's a conversation for the future, you know. But being DIY, we're not doing anything on a larger scale beyond just our own website at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? The cool thing about the music industry right now is that with places like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the places that you can connect with your fans, it's actually a really sustainable way for bands like us to, like, I'm shipping right now Kickstarter rewards to, we had a bunch of people throughout the UK, a bunch of people in Australia, and that was part of the they found out about us through some of our radio getting picked up for college radio internationally. And so we have, so we're able to like connect and talk with fans all over the globe. We're like shipping stuff. So it's kind of a little, because we have this way to connect with fans all over the world. I think for now it's a pretty sustainable way for us to.
I mean, your talent isn't just Portland anymore. In this today's world, it isn't. It's just like I mentioned before you got here. Like, there's so much content out there because bands don't need radio anymore. Before, it'd be like a narrow line of people trying to get on the radio. Now, because of that, now everybody is on the even playing field. Everybody can do what you're doing, and you can do what everybody else is doing. And it makes it more competitive on one hand, but it also makes your music accessible. Whereas before, not so much, because everybody would be sitting there waiting for that one magical deal, that one, signed to a major label. I mean, that's an obsolete term these days. Yeah. Now, as far as the because you got your baby up and running, ready to rock and roll, April 11th, the new record going in. Mm-hmm. How has the songwriting changed since between the new album and between the old album or the new album and the newer album?
Yeah.
What have you noticed about your songwriting has changed? Has today's world affected your writing, Jen? I mean, do you find yourself writing about things that you didn't write before?
I think that's such a great question. And I think that I learned a lot of things in writing some of the songs for Up at Night. And I think that made me, not that I was super fearful before, but like it kind of made me a little bit more fearless. And I've taken that into this new record. And it's like every time I sit down to write, I just tell myself, like, don't let anything stop you. Don't let any like fears, like, oh, this song's not going to be good, or this song's not going to be Camp Crushy enough, or this song's not going to be a huge radio hit. Like, just write the song. And, really trying to, like, I've of course expanded my synth collection, which is just I have a problem, and it's fine. I know I have a problem with collecting synths, but like, so the sounds that we have access to now or have continued to expand, and I'm getting even more fearless using those sounds and doing more.
I was surprised to see how I did not realize that synths came in so many different sizes. I'm sitting there, I'm watching your big setup here, and then I'm watching that reel of Tom, and he's sitting there and he's playing that little synthesizer. That's why I sent that to you. I'm going like, oh, be damn! I've never seen a synth this small before. I'm like, do they actually play? Do people actually play on that thing? But I guess they do.
I think it's like a live. You can have like these really tiny little controllers, and
like the size of a calculator. Some of them are.
Yeah. There's a synth on this record that is actually a calculator that made drum kind of beady sounds that we added on. So I mean, I'm really excited about getting into the studio, because I think it's like I feel very unlocked in the songwriting for this next record, which like Up at Night I think like helped me get there. So I mean, would you say like we've been working through the songs quite a bit?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm not afraid of any kind of like sophomore slump or anything like that. Like I just think that the songs, because we've been playing so many live shows all along, that we always want more music to play live. We always want new songs. And so there's always this kind of like push for Jen to keep writing and for us to work together to create new things. And we're expanding the music we're listening to as well, which kind of inspires what we make. And
I really do, because I don't see it very often these days, not unless it's from a big band, of course. But I really love the idea that you guys are not afraid to do those music videos.
Mhm.
I mean, that gets you out there so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, for us to be DIY, it means Chris has to like do it, you know. Chris is making it.
Wake up at 6 a.m. to edit
right.
on a computer, and yeah.
But it's
Put on those dancing shoes, mister.
Yeah. Oh, I don't mind that part. That's fun. I'll get down and boogie.
but it's so great because you're right. Like even just having a visual, you know, that we can put onto socials, and even if it's not like YouTube's a great place to like put our whole music video if people want to like see the entire thing. But on Instagram and on TikTok, like people just want to see you know, they want to see the bridge or they want to see the chorus of the song. Like they want, and it's a great way to give a snippet on those platforms. So.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of feedback have you been getting from people from social media? I mean, because you guys work it really hard. I mean, you guys are very hard workers. I gotta emphasize that again, because that's something I really respect. You know, both as a fan and as you know, back, you know, like I said, I would book your band in a heartbeat based on just the promotion. You know, just because I watch it, because I see, because you back in the day, you be the ones out there, you know, slamming the flyers on a telephone pole.
Right. And we do that sometimes
and we
too.
do that sometimes.
You still do that today?
Yeah, every now and then, yeah. So
I thought maybe I asked you that last time, but I don't know if I got an answer for that. But I didn't know if anybody still did that.
yeah, it happens from time to time. It's maybe not like the biggest. It's not the biggest way to do things like it used to be, but yeah. But as far as socials go, like I think this last year has been like our biggest growth year in socials. And just kind of like, you know, just even looking at our streaming numbers, which I feel like directly correlate. It's weird, but they directly correlate to the social numbers. That our streaming numbers are on average higher than they like ever have been before. And we're just, people are engaging, and we get notes all the time like, oh, I just discovered you, like, and I'm so happy, this is great, you know. So we're finding new people are finding us, and it's just only been like a positive growth, especially in this past year. It's kind of really started taking off, and so I'm excited to have a full album like behind us after we're past April 11th, to say like, hey, you know, we're Camp Crush, this is our album, this is who we are, this is what you can go listen to. You know, we have singles and all that out now and music videos, but it's exciting to have kind of like this almost like introductory piece of work,
like a cohesive piece. And but I mean, I think it's been like, especially on Instagram, you know, we've like people have just been discovering the music through there, and following along and sort of engaging on all of our posts and things like that too. So it's been really fun for us to I feel like we get to have like meaningful connections with the people who like our music, because you know they find us there, and then they continue the dialogue, which is cool.
Now, one cool thing too with the new record is now it should open the doors a lot more to touring. So is that something that you know? When are you scheduled to go inside the studio for start recording the new record? And will you be going on the road after that? Have you been sending press kits to some of the other clubs that you haven't played yet? You know, what kind of feedback have you been getting?
I think so the touring plans is where our family's at. You know, we're married, we have kids, and we're sending one kiddo to college in the fall, and then we have another high schooler that will be done in a couple of years. So in a couple of years we will be like, the goal has always been at that point we'll be on the road a lot more, and kind of doing longer stints. But the focus now is like, you know, regional West Coast stuff, and festivals as they come in, festivals as we get booked for that. And then just, you know, kind of focusing on family too from here. So we're still kind of balancing all of that. But again, thankfully it's like you can go on tour. But sometimes just people are still just like discovering music through streaming, you know, and so we don't have to be in New York to gain new super fans in New York.
No, I was gonna say you just go back to, because have you played LA yet? Have you played down in Los Angeles? I know you played San Francisco.
Exactly, we've played around. We haven't played in LA yet, so we need to.
Well, I think, yeah. Just the old saying is just you go ahead and you grab the record and you do the old trick of grabbing a record and a cassette tape and you record it and then you send it off.
Send
This is us. Yeah.
Exactly.
In your opinion, each of you, if it's the same, but I have a feeling it's not. I have a feeling it's probably a little different. But what do you feel are the three strongest songs on the record?
Well, I mean,
Ooh.
there's a bunch of great tunes.
How about your three favorite? That's probably let's go with that.
Yeah.
I really love Distractions because it's like the best love song ever written, and it's possible it's about me, which is very exciting.
That's the right answer.
I think Dark Hearts is incredible, which is a new single coming out. And I love playing Electric Suns live. That one's really fun. That's the big drum song.
Yeah. I love, these are all like my babies. But Mind's Eye, I think, is just like such a fun jam. It's such a fun dance, like dark, moody jam. And it's a lot of people's favorite from the record. And I just think it's really cool. It's a really fun song. And then I think I agree. I think Distractions is it's just like heartbreakingly beautiful. And I'm just excited for the world to hear it. And then, Electric Suns is special to me because it's totally a true story from an interaction that I had when I was back in college days. And so every time I play it, I just go right back. I just kind of like am right back on that spot that I wrote the song about. So,
yeah.
I'm going to follow up with my question about how this songwriting has changed in our world. Our world, our country is way different from the last time you were here.
Yeah,
we had in America when you were here. Now, now we're not so sure. How are you using your songwriting gift to express how you're feeling about what's going on today? I mean, that's what I mean about how it's affecting your songwriting. Do you find yourself writing more poppy and finding more like emotional songs, more deeper, more songs, or is it just sort of like, a Beach Boys and just try to have fun as long as you can? Do you feel an obligation as a songwriter to write about what's going on today? I mean,
yeah.
Or you just.
It's a good question. I think like if you go back to like our very first song that we ever put out, Take Me Back. Take Me Back, I wrote after this person was elected the first time. And that song, so if you can go back and it's a highly charged political song. I think that this time it's not the Beach Boys vibe, although I do think like joy is important. And I think trying to find joy in dark times is kind of the only defense that we have. Right. But I think what I've been feeling in terms of inspiration is really that the way that I think we can save this world or save this country is really like down to our locality, like how we impact our neighbors, how we impact our community, how we show up, how we continue to make things that make the world a better place. And so I've been all in on just like, listen, I actually think hiding away and being depressed is not going to improve the situation. And so just making things and showing up for your community, showing up for your neighbors. I think I think that has really like driven me down to my studio to write because it feels like right now that's the best thing that I can do. The thing I have control over is to continue to try to make art and put it into the world. And it's, very motivating. Is it all super political? No. Is it a little bit angrier? Yeah. I think that there's, I think the vibe of, I think, in general, I think you can feel a little bit more of the angst in some of the songs, but like, but it's not like a highly political record, at least yet. We'll see. I got a couple songs to go.
Yeah, so. Got some more to write. I think we probably need to wrap up soon, Patrick. I think we're
Yeah, we had well, we can do that. We had 10 minutes, but we can go ahead and wrap it up a little bit.
oh yeah, we can.
Hopefully, are you doing other? Are you doing other? Real quick, are you doing other press for the show?
Yeah, so we're doing some an interview with we have a couple different magazines that we're like digital magazines that we're working with. You know, and I think that for this record, we've done really kind of heavy like press pieces in the past, like press junkets in the past. I think for this record, we're really kind of we've had just such great success building authentic fans through social stuff. So I think that's kind of been our focus.
Yeah, so we're kind of gonna run kind of the press kind of for ourselves, and in some ways let the record speak for itself too. But we're doing like a in studio radio, two in studio radio interviews next week. To promote the album and with some local radio stations. Yeah. Should be really fun. The local radio scene here is super supportive of like the local musicians and bands.
Mm-hmm.
We're really lucky to have them. So yeah, we've got some like press and promo things lined up, and it's all part of the whirlwind, all part of the fun cyclone that we're caught up in right now.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, on that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and let people know that you are Camp Crush. Your new record, up. I keep on saying up all night. You know,
up that night. Here we go.
Night.
Up that night. Backwards right there. But,
I keep on saying up all night. Well, I guess that sounds like USA Today. But you guys have the new record out. There it is, right there. Jen and Chris kicking butt, and they'll be playing on the Mission Theater in Portland, Oregon, on April 11th. The door 7 show starts 7:30.
Show starts at 8. Yeah, and then so the new album comes out April 11th, and right now you can listen to a couple singles on it. You can pre-save it online in our link tree. I think you put our link tree link in there. There's a link to pre-save the album. But then when it comes out, if you want a vinyl, we have vinyl that you can buy on our website, and we can ship to you, or a CD. We have CDs too.
Yeah, and stream. You know, streaming really does, like, people save it. If they stream it, that really helps us. You know, one thing prior to the release that is really helpful is when people pre-save. So if like you're a Spotify listener or an Apple Music listener, if you go to our link tree and pre-save the record, the more of those that we have, the more likely we are to be chosen to be like on an editorial playlist by Spotify or by Apple. And that really just helps that, you know, more ears get on our music.
So basically what they're looking for is see how well your pre-sales do.
Engagement.
Engagement. Absolutely. People are excited. They want to hear it. And like I said, it's a no skip record. So it's also like
That's
a win.
So true. It's absolutely
a win.
True.
It's a win for the ears.
It's a tight 10. It's a tight 10. You know, no more, no less. Yeah.
All right. Jen and Chris, thank you so much for coming out and hanging out. And when the new record is, or you land a tour, either way, we'll come back and revisit you, see where you guys are at. I will give people an update here on how their show went on the 11th. Chris and Jen will let us know how it went, and then I'll tell you guys, and you guys can help celebrate with us.
Yeah, and we'll do this again in the future. We'll talk about where we're at in the recording stage next time.
All right, real quick before we let them go, just let you know that next Tuesday, on the 8th of April, we will be having in actor Robert Lasardo will be our very special guest. He is a Grail guest. He's one of those big stars. Yeah, and so he'll be coming in here next Tuesday to talk horror movies with us and action movies. And he's got over 100 credits underneath his belt. So we will be talking to him about his brand new movie that he wrote and directed and starred in called American Trash, which is a very, very strong film, very gritty. And we'll be talking with Robert on next Tuesday. All right. To the chat, thank you so much for coming out and supporting us. I really appreciate it. New faces here. Burt Reynolds, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate that. And Michelle and Frog and everybody else. Andre, thank you so much. That's it. That's it for me. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Peace.
Thanks. Bye.
Come on. We're trapped. I think we are trapped.